like this summer you could come alive again. My new book is almost here. Peace is more expensive than lobster, a wake-up call with lipstick. And over the next 7 weeks, I want to take you on the journey with me. On Tuesday is a special wake-up call with lipstick podcast inspired by one of the chapters of the book. Wednesday at noon, we gather together for conversation, co-working, and encouragement. Throughout the week, we'll keep the discussion going in Pink Lady Posse, pull a few friction cards, and share surprises along the way. Then on Saturday morning, we come together for Think Pink. I'd love to spend a summer with you. Let's go. Hello, everybody. It is Sandy Parker Martinez, and I am welcoming you to this week's podcast. Last week, we talked with clinical psychologist Faria about what happens when an event becomes a story about who we are. I shared the experience of standing on the TEDx stage one day and then falling on the asphalt the next, face first, and how quickly I fell became something is wrong with me. We talked about high achieving women and how they can attach their identity to achievement. How many of the beliefs and stories we carry may actually be inherited, and why simply seeing the pattern creates space. It creates space between what happened and what we make it mean, and what we make it mean about us. And that brought us right back to friction. When we see the drag, we can return to our say. Oh, and stay with me because before we finish today, I have something beautiful I want to give you. No catch, just a gift that includes the entire first chapter of the book. Okay, I promised to answer questions that occurred from people listening last week. This one's a doozy. Sandy, how do I know when something is friction and when something really is about me? This is a great question because it's not you, it's friction. Doesn't mean you don't have responsibility. It means you don't make yourself the explanation before you've examined what happened. I fell on the asphalt. That was a circumstance. But mostly I went from I fell to I'm diminished. I went from hero to zero. Those are two different things. So when something happens, I want to create just a little bit of space between what happened and now what am I making that mean about me? Okay, maybe I made a mistake. Maybe I need to apologize. Maybe I need to learn something. But none of these automatically mean I'm stupid. I'm incapable. I'm too old. I'm a failure. I should have known better. That's the difference. Friction gives us somewhere to look before we turn to ourselves, or maybe before we turn on ourselves. The distinction comes directly out of the asphalt story. The external event didn't change who I was, but my interpretation immediately changed how I experienced myself. Okay, question number 2. Okay, but what if I see my friction and still keep doing the same thing? Well, first of all, congratulations, you saw it. And I'm serious about that. We've gotten so accustomed to believing that awareness only counts if you immediately fix something. My promise isn't see your friction and become a completely different woman by Thursday. My promise is see it. The truth is, until you see it, you don't have access to it anyway. I love what Faria said. Insight is essential, but insight by itself doesn't create change. I agree with her, but here's where I want to give us all some breathing room. Once I see, oh, I'm over polishing this because I'm afraid somebody will see something that isn't excellent, I have something I didn't have 5 minutes ago. Choice. I still might polish it. I might decide, yeah, I'm going to obsess over this because this one really matters to me. But now I'm choosing instead of being unconsciously run by a pattern. So sometimes seeing it is enough. You don't have to turn every revelation into a renovation project. I remember one woman in our exercise who discovered she was so worried about breaking the rules. She didn't have to become a rule breaker, but realizing that she could was freeing enough. Okay, how do I know if something is really me or just something I learned to be? Well, this is a doozy because some of the things we are absolutely certain are our personality may actually be adaptations, or they might actually be totally inherited. You'll hear it like this: I'm the responsible one. I'm the one who keeps everybody happy. I'm the one who doesn't need anything. I'm the one who gets it right. Okay, maybe. But where did we learn that? We absorb identity from family, culture, the things that helped us belong. Eventually, we don't experience them as something we learned. We experience them as who I am. I use the image of inheriting a beautiful old mansion. There may be a horrible, rowdy old couch sitting in the living room, and you've kept it for 40 years because it belonged to your grandmother. Well, grandmother is not coming back for the couch. And some of our beliefs are like that. You don't have to throw them away, but you do get to look at them and say, is this mine? Do I still believe this? Does this fit who I am now? That's your say. You don't have to reject your mother, your grandmother, your culture, or your past. You just get to decide what you're carrying forward. This week, we're in chapter 4. That's not you, that's friction. This is where we look at the whole heart of the concept. And I introduce the idea of explaining friction. Well, I want to tell you where the term curb actually came from. For years, I had trouble walking, and curbs would literally stop me. I remember walking around a whole building just to find the ramp. After I had both my hips and knees replaced, not all at once, thank you. Thank you, Medicare. My physical therapist put a little curbside platform in front of me and said, step up. Oh my God. I froze. I can't. I haven't stepped on a curb in 30 years. She looked me square in the eye and she said, your knees are ready. Your brain is not. Your knees are ready. Your brain is not. And she was right. I could step up. I just didn't know yet that I could. And looking back, I think that little curb was one of my first lessons in friction because frictions is simply resistance to movement. And resistance takes energy. Thinking about pushing a box across ice versus pushing that same exact box across shag carpet. That box didn't change. You didn't change. The surface changed. And suddenly, moving the same box takes a whole lot more energy. That's what happens in life. When something takes more energy, than we think it should, we don't usually examine the surface. We usually examine ourselves. Why is this so hard for me? Why can't I do this? Why am I so tired? Why can't I make a decision? Why can't I get myself together? That's where I want us to start looking differently. Because sometimes what you're feeling isn't failure. You're feeling the drag. We misdiagnose friction as failure. Maybe there aren't too many steps. Maybe the expectations aren't clear. Maybe there's emotional noise. Maybe the system doesn't fit. Maybe an old story is rubbing against something you know to be true. Sometimes nothing is wrong with you. Simply getting in the way is something creating some drag. And in this chapter in the book, I give that drag 3 names: curbs, wobbles, grinders. Okay, a curb, kind of like the curb in the street. It's something outside of you that's making forward movement bumpy or unclear. Bad instructions, too many steps, mixed expectations, a system that doesn't make sense. So instead of saying, why can't I figure this out? Maybe we can say, maybe something out there isn't clear. That gives us space. Okay, then there are wobbles. A wobble usually happens after you've already moved. You send the email, you speak up, you say no, you make a decision, and 5 minutes later, was that okay? Maybe I should explain it a little more. Did I sound rude? Maybe I need to send another text. Nothing necessarily happened, but suddenly you feel exposed. That's a wobble. I like to say curbs are happening on the outside, wobbles are happening on the inside. And often a wobble is where we make something mean something about us. Okay, category 3. These are grinders. Grinders are not big dramatic moments for the most part. They're the slow accumulation of little things that keep taking a bit of your energy. Or grinders seem small at the time, but over time grind you down. Here's a little example. Let's say I don't tell my husband what I'm really thinking. And tomorrow I don't really say what I'm really thinking. And then down the road, I say, my husband doesn't really care what I think. Ugh, they grind you down. Like the phone call you haven't made, the decision that you keep thinking about, the conversation you keep avoiding, that thing that's been sitting on your do list for 6 months. Each one says, I'm not a big deal. And maybe it isn't, but enough not big deals eventually get heavy. That's a grinder. Here's the most important part of this whole chapter. I'm not asking you to fix any of it. I'm asking you to see it. Oh, that's a curb. Oh my gosh, I'm wobbling. Oh man, that's been grinding on me for 6 months. Because the moment you conceive friction, you're no longer captured inside of it. Now you can look at it. And from there, your say becomes available again. So if here's one thing I want you to take from chapter 4, it's this. The next time something feels harder than it should, don't immediately ask, what's wrong with me? Try this. Where is the friction? What's making this harder than it needs to be? Because sometimes you're not feeling the task, you're feeling the drag. It's not you, it's friction. Okay, each week we end with a segment I call Friction in the Wild. And it's a time this week when I saw friction in my own life. And I'll give you an example. Of course, I want to be a speaker. I want to tell everybody in the world about friction. And I was on a Zoom with a woman who's a PR specialist. And she started asking me questions. She was super nice. Like, let me see your speaker sheet. Or how many people have you reached out to be a speaker? Or, just very good questions. But every question she asked, for some reason, I started feeling a little bit smaller or a little bit more unprepared or a little more, I might not be as good as everybody she's working with. That was a huge wobble. But I didn't really recognize it when I was on the Zoom with her. I got off the Zoom, and instead of feeling small and unprepared and like I'll never be a speaker and what was I thinking anyway, I just looked at what happened. A PR lady was asking me questions and I felt smaller. And I said to myself, now that was a doozy. Look at that wobble. Shake it off and keep going. Because once I saw it, I didn't have to live it. That's the point. You see friction, you return to your drag, and you have a little space to take a breath. And remember, nothing is wrong with you. Okay, I promised you a gift, and I can't wait to give it to you. It is a magazine. It's a magazine that includes chapter 1 of my upcoming book, Peace is More Expensive Than Lobster. But it also includes some songs, like 4 of my favorites. One of them is Girl, Put Your Records On. Anyway, some songs, a reflection. It's just a happy encouragement gift. I want you to have it. And if you like it, I want you to share it with anybody you want. Maybe your whole list, your whole club, your whole organization. Because isn't this a time for a little encouragement? So here's where you find it. You go to sandyparkermartinez.com/magazine. That's it. I'll see you next week. And remember, see the drag, return to your say. Thanks for tuning in to Pink Lady Posse Podcast, where women go from what now to what's next. Come join us at pinkladyposse.com, where we share community, resources, and tools to support your next beautiful chapter. With love, light, and a little lipstick. See you next time.